Unit 4, Learning Target 4, it's the last one. So determine an appropriate domain and range in terms of a real-world context. So what I want you to do first is I want you to pause it. I want you to write your own definitions, and then you can press play. All right, so domain, I'm not going to go over this in full. You can go back to your notes. This is being weird again. Domain. All right, sorry, got to go to my fingers again. Miss Hanson's isn't working here. So domain is going to be my input. Actually, this might be easier to do it like this. And then my range is going to be your output. Another way you could think of it is these are your x values, these are your y values, x, y, x, y. Down here, so we were kind of doing this in the first learning target as well for domain and range. So you'll be asked to define the domain and range for a function. So if I look here, each of these is a point. It's not a continuous line. It's not a continuous line, so it can't be an interval. So here, what I want to say, and I'll move it afterwards so that way you can see why I'm doing it. My domain, and I'm going to do the little fun ones. My domain is going to be those exact points but my x value. So if I look, my x value is right here. That's going to be -5. The next one is here, -4. It's going to go all the way up to 5. So instead of having to write all of them, I would put 3 so that way I see I'm counting, ... and then the last one, all the way up to 5. So this tells me that my domain is counting by ones, so it's going to be -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up until 5, instead of having to write them all out. But I have to first establish that it's counting by ones. My range is going to be somewhat similar. I'm starting at 0, then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0 to 5. So I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, ... comma, 5. So there is this for the first one. My second one, this is continuous. It's going forever, but we're going to assume that since there's no arrows on the end, I'm going to do that for this one. There's no arrows on the end. Let's assume that it stops. So it stops here and it stops there. So my domain is my x values. It's going from 0 all the way to 360, and it's including every single thing in between that. So again, I'll do this over here. So my domain is going to go anywhere between 0 and, what was that, 360. And I'm putting an arrow now. I'm putting a little dash because it's including everything in between. It's including point 1, point 2. It's a continuous line. It includes every single point. This one was each individual point. This one is a continuous thing, but it's stopping. My range is continuous, but it's only going between 1 and -1. Everything in between. So -1 to 1. And everything in between there. And that would be my range for this problem. The last one, and I'll write this up here, but this is going to go on forever because it has arrows. Arrows indicating it's going on forever. So if I keep going, I'm eventually going to reach -infinity in my x direction, -infinity all the way to infinity in both of those directions. So, that's not what I wanted to do. Text. So my domain for that last one, and I don't have an infinity symbol, so I'm just going to write, like my little mouse thing isn't working, -infinity all the way to infinity. I can't make the little symbol in text box. Same thing with my range. If I keep this going forever and ever, it's going to keep going up and it's going to keep going down. So my range, my y directions, is also going to be -infinity all the way to infinity. And again, you don't have to write inf, and I can do this. You could have done like -infinity, really hard to do when it's my finger. All right. So that would be the answer to this one. Next page. Okay, so I don't know if this is written on there, but like from the last learning target 3, we had this problem. So we had to think of a realistic domain and range for real-world solutions, and we're going to just use the problem that we did before. So for this one, instead of it being -infinity to infinity, I don't want it to be like that. Let's assume that we're going to start with freezing. Our lowest value can be freezing, F-R-E, freezing, and we're just going to go up to like 100 degrees in Celsius. So that's what we're going to deal with. So let's look at this actual equation. So if we're thinking of Celsius, Celsius is my x value, right? X is Celsius. So my domain And I'll put this down here. Oh my God, stop it. What the poop is happening? Oh my God. I'm gonna stab my computer. Okay, it wants me to just write under here. Let's go not this font. So my domain, maybe I should make that a little bit bigger. My domain is going to be all of my Celsius things. And we just said that we're going to look at Celsius when it's freezing and from freezing to 100 degrees. So freezing for Celsius, and I don't know if you know this or not, you might have had to look this up. Celsius to freeze starts at 0. And it goes all the way up, and this is continuous, and we're going to go all the way up to 100. So my X values, my domain, we're going to start at 0 and go all the way up to 100. Freezing for Celsius is 0 degrees in Celsius. So then, my range then is going to be my Fahrenheit. And so if we don't know what freezing is, the way that we do this then, and I'm going to have to write, is I plug in that small value for X and I figure out what my Y would be. So I have 9/5 times 0 plus 32. Well, this is going to cancel out. 9/5 times 0 is going to be 0, which means my range starts at 32. So I plugged in this first number for X there to figure out what it starts at. So I'm going to start at 32. And I'm going to go all the way up to, and so now I have to do the same thing. Now I have to go all the way up to, I'm going to plug this 100 in for that X to figure out what it is. So this one maybe, I have to do it like this. So it's going to be that 9/5 times that 100 now to figure out what my next number is going to be, plus 32. Plugging it into that equation to figure it out. 9 times 100 is 900. 900 divided by 5 is 180. 180 plus 32 is 212. So, excuse me, what it goes up to then is 212. So to figure it out, you need to first actually just figure, if it's for a word problem, they give you an equation. What I would say is figure out what your domain is. Here it's from 0 to 100. Then to figure out your range, all you do is plug in those two numbers that you picked into the equation to figure out what the other two numbers should be. So when I plug 0 in, I get 32. When I plug 100 in, I get 212. That's my range now. Before class, you're going to try and do it, find an appropriate. So these aren't domain, like this one doesn't have a problem, but you have to think like hours spent studying. That's going to be my domain. So I can't spend negative hours studying, so the least amount of hours I can spend studying is 0. What's the most? That's your domain. What's the least amount you can earn interest? What's the most? What's the least? What's the most? What's the least? What's the most? Starting with this. Funny story. I have a huge fear of bugs. I don't know if you know this, but like spiders especially. And when I was in, I don't know, high school, I got my tonsils taken out. And so in college, my one best friend, had her tonsils taken out over Christmas break. And so she was texting me a lot, like, hey, did this happen to you? Did this happen to you? Blah, blah, blah. And then when you get your tonsils out, like, the couple of days, like, afterwards, like, you can't really talk. You don't feel good. You know, you have, like, these weird scabs in your throat. So she's laying down in her bed, and she sends me a picture of a spider on her ceiling. She sends me a picture like, this sucks. And then she gets I have to kill it with a shoe because she didn't want to get up to move. Because when you move, you can like feel the scabs in your throat. It's really gross. So the easiest thing would have been to throw a shoe at it. So she sees a spider on the ceiling. She throws a shoe at it. Sends me back another picture message. Apparently, the spider that she tried to kill was pregnant. And so I don't know if you've ever seen this, but if you throw a shoe or you hit a pregnant spider, that it like gives birth right then. So like next picture was just thousands of little black dots on the ceiling because she killed it, which made all of the baby spiders pop out. And then there was just thousands of little baby spiders crawling on her ceiling. And the picture, underneath the picture said, worst decision of my life. So if you ever kill a spider and there's a bunch of little spiders that pop out after it, it's because it was pregnant. So be careful when you kill spiders.